A day for songs and contests. When young Dawn, with her rose-red fingers, shone once more, royal Alcinous, hallowed island king, rose from bed, and great Odysseus, raider of cities, rose too. Poised in his majesty, Alcinous led the way to Phaeacia's meeting grounds, and built for all, beside the harbored ships. Both men sat down on the polished stone benches side by side as Athena started roaming up and down the town, in build and voice, the wild Alcinous herald furthering plans to Odysseus' journey home, and stopped beside each citizen, urged them all, "Come this way, you lords and captains of Phaeacia. Come to the meeting grounds and learn about the stranger. A new arrival, here at our wise king's palace now. He's here from the roving ocean, driven far off course. He looks like a deathless god." Rousing their zeal, their curiosity, each and every man, and soon enough, the assembly seats were filled with people thronging, gazing in wonder at the seasoned man of war. Over Odysseus' head and shoulders now, Athena lavished a marvelous splendor. Yes, making him taller, more massive to the eyes, so Phaeacians might regard the man with kindness, awe, and respect as well. And he might win through the many trials they posed to test the hero's strength. Once they grouped, crowding the meeting grounds, Alcinous rose and addressed his island people. "Hear me, lords and captains of Phaeacia. Hear what the strange heart inside me has to say. This stranger here, our guest, I don't know who he is, or whether he comes from sunrise lands or the western lands of evening, but he has come in his wanderings to my palace. He pleads for passage, he begs we guarantee it. So now, as in years gone by, let us press on and grant him escort. No one, I tell you, no one who comes to my house will languish long here, heartsick for a convoy home. Come, my people, haul a black ship down to the bright sea rigged for her maiden voyage, and enlist a crew of 52 young sailors, the best in town, who proved their strength before. Let all hands lash their oars to the thwarts, then disembark. Come to my house and fall in for a banquet quickly. I'll lay on a princely feast for all. So then, there are the orders I issue to our crews. For the rest of you, you sceptred princes here, you come to my royal halls so we can give the stranger a hero's welcome in our palace. No one here refuse. Call in the inspired bard, Demodocus. God has given the man the gift of song. To him, beyond all others, the power to please, however the spirit stirs him to sing." With these commands, Alcinous led the way, and a file of sceptred princes took his lead, while the herald went to find the gifted bard. And the 52 young soldiers, duly chosen, briskly following orders, went down to the shore of the barren salt sea. And once they reached the ship at the surf's edge, first they hauled the craft into deeper waters, stepped the mast amidships, canvas brailed. They made oars fast in the leather oarlock straps, moored her riding high on the swell, then disembarked, and made their way to wise Alcinous' high-roofed halls. There, colonnades and courts and rooms were overflowing with crowds. A mounting host of people, young and old, the king slaughtered a dozen sheep to feed his guests. 8 boars with shining tusks and a pair of shambling oxen. These were skinned and dressed, and then laid out to her feast, to fill the heart with savor. In came the herald now, leading along the faithful bard, the muse adored, above all others true, but her gifts were mixed with good and evil both. She stripped him of sight, but gave the man the power of stirring, rapturous song. Pontonius brought the bard a silver-studded chair, right amid the feasters, leaning it up against a central column, hung his high clear lyre on a peg above his head, and showed him how to reach up with his hands and lift it down. And the herald placed the table by his side, with a basket full of bread and cup of wine, for him to sip when his spirit craved refreshment. All reached out for the good things that lay at hand, and when they put aside desire for food and drink, the muse inspired the bard to sing the famous deeds of fighting heroes. The song whose fame had reached the skies those days. The strife between Odysseus and Achilles, Peleus' son. How once at the gods' lavish feast the captains clashed in a savage war of words, while Agamemnon, lord of armies, rejoiced at heart that Achaea's bravest men were battling so. For this was a victory sign that Apollo prophesied. At his shrine in Pytho with Agamemnon strode across the rocky threshold, asking the oracle for advice. The start of the tidal waves were ruining, tumbling down on Troy and Achaea's forces, both at once, thanks to the will of Zeus, who rules the world. That was the song the famous harper sang, but Odysseus, clutching his faring with sea blue cape in both powerful hands, drew it over his head and buried his handsome face, ashamed his host might see him shedding tears. Whenever the rapt bard would pause in the song, he'd lift the cape from his head, wipe off his tears, and hoisting his double-handed cup, pour it out to the gods. But soon as the bard would start singing again, impelled to sing by Phaeacia's lords, who reveled in his tale, again Odysseus hid his face and wept. His weeping went unmarked by all others, only Alcinous, sitting close beside him, noticed the guest's tears, heard the groan in the man's labored breathing, and said at once to the master's mariners around him, "Hear me, my lords, and captains of Phaeacia. By now, we've had our fill of food well shared, and the lyre too, our loyal friend at banquets. Now out we go again and test ourselves in contests, games of every kind, so our guest can tell his friends, when he reached home, how far we excel the world at boxing, wrestling, jumping, speed of foot." He forged ahead, and the rest fell in behind. The herald hung the ringing lyre back on its peg, and taking Demodocus by the hand, led him from the palace, guiding him down the same path the island lords had just pursued, keen to watch the contest. They reached the meeting grounds with throngs of people streaming in their trail, as a press of young champions rose for the competition. Topsail and riptide rose, the helmsmen row hard too, and seamen and sternmen surf at the beach and stroke oar, breaker and bowsprit, racing the wind and swing abroad, and Sigrid, the son of great fleet, shipwrightson, and the son of launcher, broad sea rose up too, a match of murderous Ares, death to men. In looks and build the best of the Phaeacians, after gallant Laomedonus, and captain of the people. Laomedonus rose with two more sons of great Alcinous, Halius bred the sea, and Clytonius famed for ships. And now the games began. And first event, a foot race. They towed the line and broke flat out from the start, with the fast pack flying down the field in a whirl of dust, and Clytonius the prince outstripped them all by far. Flashing ahead, the linked two mules will plow a furrow before he turned for home, leaving the path behind and raced to reach the crowds. Next, the wrestling grueling sport. They grappled and locked, and broad sea, pinning the strongest champions, won the bouts. Next, in the jumping, Sigrid leapt and beat the field. In the discus, row hard up and uphurled them all by far, and the king's good son Laodamas boxed them to their knees. When all had enjoyed the games to their heart's content, Alcinous' son Laodamas spurred them. "Come, my friends, let us ask our guest if he knows the ropes of any sport. He's no mean man, not with a build like that. Look at his thighs, his legs, what a pair of arms, his massive neck, his big rippling strength. Nor is he past his prime, just beaten down by one too many blows. Nothing worse than the sea, I always say, to crush a man, the strongest man alive." And Broadsea put it quickly. "Well said, Laodamas. Right to the point. Go up to the fellow and challenge him yourself." On that cue, the noble prince strode up before Odysseus, front and center, asking, "Come, stranger, sir, won't you try your hand at our contest now? If you have any skill in any, it's fit and proper for you to know your sports, where greater glory attends a man while he's alive, and then when he wins with his racing feet and striving hands. Come and compete then, throw your cares to the wind. It won't be long, your journey's not far off, your ship's already hauled down to the sea, your crew is set to sail." Laodamas, quick to the mark, Odysseus countered sharply. "Why do you taunt me so with such a challenge? Pain weighs on my spirit now, not for your sports. I've suffered much already, I've struggled hard, but here I sit amid your assembly still, starved for passage home, begging your king, begging all your people." "Oh, I knew it," Broadseas broke in, mocking him to his face. "I never took you for someone skilled in games, the kind that real men play throughout the world. Not a chance. You're some skipper of profiteers, roving the high seas in his scuddling craft, reckoning on his freight on a keen eye out for home cargo, grabbing the gold while he can. You're no athlete, I can see that." With a dark glance, wily Odysseus shot back. "Indecent talk, my friend. You're a reckless fool, I see that. So the gods don't hand out all their gifts at once, not build and brains and flowing speech to all. One man may fail to impress us with his looks, but a god can crown his words and beauty charm, and men look on with delight when he speaks out. Never faltering, filled with winning self-control, he shines forth and assemblies crowd, and people gaze at him like a god when he walks through the streets. Another man may look like a deathless one on high, but there are not bit of grace crown his words. Just like you, my fine handsome friend. Not even a god could improve those lovely looks of yours, but the mind inside is worthless. Your slander fans the anger in my heart. I am no stranger to sports, for all your taunts. I've held my place in the front ranks, I tell you. Long I could trust to my youth and striving hands, but now I've wrestled down my pain and hardship. Look, I've borne my share of struggles, cleaving my way through wars of men and pounding waves of sea. Nevertheless, despite so many blows, I'll compete in your games. Just watch. Your insults cut to the quick. You rouse my fighting blood. Up he sprang, cloak and all, and seized a discus, huge and heavy, more weighty by far than those the Phaeacians used to hurl and test each other. Wheeling round, he let loose his great hand, and stone whirred on, and down the ground they went, those lords on the long oars and master mariners cringing under the rock's onrush, soaring lightly out of his grasp, flying away past all the marks, and Queen Athena, built like a man, stalked out the spot and cried with a voice of triumph, "Even a blind man, friend, could find your mark by groping round. It's not mixed up in the crowd. It's far out front. There's nothing to fear in this event. No one can touch you, much less beat your distance." At that, the heart of the long-suffering hero laughed, so glad to find a ready friend in the crowd that, lighter in mood, he challenged all Phaeacia's best. "Now, go match that, you young pups, and straightway. I'll hurl you another just as far, I swear, and even further. All the rest of you, anyone with spine and spirit, step right up and try me. You've incensed me so. At boxing, wrestling, racing, nothing daunts me. Any Phaeacian here except Laodamas himself. The man, he's my host. Who would fight his friend? He'd have to be a good-for-nothing senseless, yes, to challenge his host and come to grips in games in a far-off land at that. He'd cut his own legs short. But there are no others I deny or think beneath me. I'll take on all contenders gladly, test them head to head. I'm no disgrace in the world of games where men compete. Well, I know how to handle a fine polished bow, the first to hit my man in the mass of enemies, even with rows of comrades pressing near me, taking aim with our shafts and hit our targets. Philocides alone outshot me there in Troy, when ranks of Achaean archers bent their bows. Of the rest, I'd say that I outclassed them all. Men still alive, who eat their bread on earth, but I'd never vie with the men of the days gone by. Not Heracles, not Eurytus, nor Oclea. Archers who rivaled immortal powers with their bows. That's why noble Eurydice died a sudden death, no old age creeping upon him in the halls. Apollo shot him down, enraged that the man had challenged him, the archer god. As for spears, I can fling a spear as far as the next man wings an arrow. Only at sprinting I fear you leave me in the dust. I've taken a shameful beating on my heavy seas, no conditioning out there shipward day by day. My legs have lost their spring. He finished. All stood quiet, hushed. Only Alcinius found a way to answer. Stranger, friend, nothing you say among us seems ungracious. You simply want to display your gifts you're born with. Stung with a youngster marched up on you in the games, mocking and ridiculing your prowess as no one would, who had some sense to fit in proper speech. But come now, hear me out. So you can tell our story to the other lords as you sit and feast in your own hall some day. Your own wife and your children may be by your side, remembering that our island prowess here. What skills great Zeus given us as well? Down all the years from our father's days till now. We hardly world-class boxers and wrestlers, I admit, but we can waste like the Wren. We're champion sailors too. And always dear to our hearts the feast and lyre dance, and changes of fresh clothes and our warm baths and beds. So come, all you Phaeacian masters, to the dance. Now dance away, so our guest can tell his friends when he reaches home how far we excel the world in sailing, nimble footwork, dance, and song. Go, someone, quickly fetch Demodocus. Now his ringing lyre, it must be hanging somewhere in the palace. At the king's word, the herald sprang to his feet and ran to fetch the vibrant lyre from the house. And stewards rose, 9 in all, picked from the realm up to set the stage to conquest masters at arms, who leveled the dancing floor to make a fine broad ring. The herald returned and placed the ringing lyre now in Demodocus' hands. Then the bard moved toward the center, flanked by his boys in the flesh of youth, skilled dancers who stamped the ground with marvelous pulsing steps. As Odysseus gazed at the flying feet, in his heart aglow with wonder, a rippling prelude, now the bard struck up an irresistible song. The love of Ares and Aphrodite crowned with flowers. How the two had first made love in Hephaestus' mansion, all in secret, Ares had showered her with gifts and showered Hephaestus' marriage bed with shame. But a messenger ran to tell the gods of fire, Helios, lord of the sun, who spied the couple lost in each other's arms and making love. Hephaestus, hearing the heart-wounding story, bustled toward his forge, brooding on his revenge, planted a huge anvil on its block and beat out chains, not to be slipped or broken, all to pin the lovers on the spot. This snare the fire god forged, ablaze with his rage of war, then limped to the room where the bed of love stood firm, and round the post he poured the chains in a sweeping net, and streams of others flowing down from the roof beam, gossamer fine and spider webs no man could see, not even a blissful god. The smith had forged a masterwork of guile. Once he'd spun that cunning trap around the bed, he feigned a trip to the well-built town of Lemnos, dearest to him by far of all the towns on earth. And the god of battle kept no blind man's watch. As soon as he saw master craftsman leave, he plied his golden reins and arrived at once, and entered the famous god's fire mansion, chafing with lust for Aphrodite crowned with flowers. She'd just returned from her father's place, mighty Zeus, and now she sat in her rooms as Ares strode right in, and grasped her with a warm, seductive urging. Quick, my darling, come, let's go to bed, and lose ourselves in love. Your husband's away by now. He must be off to the wilds of Lemnos, consorting with his raucous Sintian friends. So he pressed, and her heart raced with a joy steep in war, and off they went in bed, and down they lay, and down around them came the cunning chains of the crafty god of fire, showering down now till the couple could not move a limb or lift a finger. And then they knew at last there was no way out. Out now. And now the glorious crippled smith was drawing near. He turned around and miles short of the Lemnos coast, for the sun god kept his watch, and told Hephaestus all. So back he rushed to his house, his heart consumed with anguish. Halting there at the gates, seized with a savage rage, he howled a terrible cry, imploring all the gods. Father Zeus, look here, the rest of you happy gods who live forever. Here is a sight to make you laugh, revolt you too. Just because I'm crippled, Zeus's daughter, Aphrodite will always spurn me and love that devastating Ares, just because of his striking looks and racer's legs. While I am weakling, lame from birth, and who's to blame? Both my parents, who else? If only they'd never bred me. They'd look at the two lovers crawled inside my bed, locked in each other's arms. The sight makes them burn. But I doubt they'll want to lie that way much longer, not a moment more, mad as they are for each other. No, they'll soon tire of bedding down together, and then my cunning chains will bind them fast, till our father pays my bride gifts back in full. All I handed him from that shameless bitch, his daughter, irresistible beauty, all unbridled too. So Hephaestus wailed as the gods came crowding down the bronze-floored house. And Poseidon, god of the earthquake, came, and Hermes came, running god of luck, and Archer, lord Apollo, while modesty kept each goddess to their mansion. The immortals, givers of all good things, stood at the gates, and uncontrollable laughter burst from the happy gods when they saw the god of fire's subtle, cunning work. One would glance at his neighbor, laughing out. A bad day for adultery. Slow outstrips the swift. Look how limping Hephaestus conquers war, the quickest of all gods who rule Olympus. The cripple wins by craft. The adulterer, he will pay the price. So the gods would banter among themselves, but Lord Apollo goaded Hermes on. Tell me, Quicksilver, giver of all good things, even with those unwieldy shackles wrapped around you, how would you like to bed the golden Aphrodite? Oh, Apollo, if only, the giant killer cried. Archer, bind me down with triple those endless chains. Let all the gods look on, and all the goddesses too. How I'd love to bed that golden Aphrodite. A peal of laughter broke from the deathless ones, but not Poseidon, not a smile from him. He kept on, begging the famous smith to loose the god of war, pleading, his words flying. Let him go. I guarantee you Ares will pay the price. Whatever you ask, Hephaestus. Whatever right in the eyes of the gods. But the famous crippled smith appealed in turn. God of the earthquake, please don't urge me on this. A pledge for a worthless man is a worthless pledge indeed. What if he slips out of his chains, his debts as well? How could I shackle you while all the gods looked on? But the god of earthquakes reassured the smith. Look, Hephaestus, if Ares scuttles off and away, squirming out of his debt, I'll pay the fine myself. And the famous crippled smith complied at last. Now there's an offer I really can't refuse. With all the force of the gods of fire loosed the chains, and the two lovers, free from the bonds that overwhelmed them so, sprang up and away at once. The war gods sped to Thrace, while love with her telltale laughter sped to Phaphos, Cypress Isle, where her grove and centered altars stand. There the Graces bathe and anoints her with oil, ambrosial oil, and the bloom that clings to the gods who never die, and swathe her round in gowns to stop her heart. An ecstasy, a vision. That was the song that the famous harper sung, and Odysseus relished every note as the islanders, the lords of long oars, and master mariners rejoiced. Next, the king asked Halius and Laodamas to dance, the two alone, since none could match that pair. So taking in a hand of gleaming sea ball blue, made by the craftsman Polybus, arching back, one prince would hurl it toward the shadowy clouds, as the other, leaping high into the air, would catch it, quickly and nimbly, before his feet hit the ground again. Once they vied at throwing the ball straight up, they tossed it back and forth in a blur of hands as they danced across the earth that feeds us all, while bulls around the ring stamped out the beat, and a splendid rhythmic drumming sound arose. And good Odysseus looked at his hosts, exclaiming, King Alcinous, shining among your island people, you've boasted Phaeacious dancers at the best. They've proved your point. I watch and I'm amazed. His praises cheered the hollow island king, who spoke at once to the master mariners around him. Hear me, my lords and captains of Phaeacia. Our guest is a man of real taste, I'd say. Come, let's give him the parting gifts that a guest deserves. There are 12 peers on the realm who rule our land, 13 counting myself. Let each of us contribute a fresh cloak and a shirt and a bar of precious gold. Gather the gifts together, hurry, so our guest can have them all in hand when he goes to dine, his spirit filled with joy. As for Broad Sea, let him make amends, man to man, with his words as well as gifts. His first remarks were hardly fit to hear. All assented and gave their commands. Each noble sent a page to fetch his gifts, and Broadsea volunteered in turn, obliging. Great Alcinous, shining among our island people, of course I'll make the amends to our newfound friend, as you request. I'll give the man his sword. It's solid bronze, and the hilt has silver studs. In the sheath around it, ivory freshly carved. Here's a gift our guests will highly value. He placed the silver-studded sword in Odysseus' hands, with a burst of warm words. Farewell, stranger, sir. If any remark of mine gave you offense, may storms snatch it up and sweep it off. May the gods grant you safe passage, home to see your wife. You've been so far from loved ones, and you've suffered so. Tactful Odysseus answered him in kind, and a warm farewell to you, my friend. May the gods grant you good fortune. May you never miss the sword, this gift you give, with such salutes. You've made amends in full. With that, he slung the silver-studded sword across his shoulder. As the sun sank, his glittered gifts arrived, and the proud heralds bore him into the hall where sons of King Alcinous took them over, spread them out before the noble mother's feet. A grand array of gifts. The king and his majesty led the gifts to the peers inside, following in a file, and down they sat in rows of high-backed chairs. The king turned down to the queen and urged her, Come, my dear, bring in the elegant chest, the best you have, and lay it inside a fresh cloak and shirt, your own gifts. Then heat a bronze cauldron over the fire, boil water, so once our guest has bathed and reviewed his gifts, all neatly stacked for sailing, gifts our Phaeacian lords have brought him now, he'll feast in peace and hear the harper's songs. And I will give him a gorgeous golden cup of mine, so he'll remember Alcinous all the days to come, when he pours libations out in his own house, to Father Zeus and other gods on high. And at that, Arete told her serving women, set a great 3-legged cauldron over the fire and do it right away. And hoisting over the blaze a cauldron, filling it with brimful of bathing water, they piled fresh logs beneath and lit them quickly. The fire lapped at the vessel's belly, and the water warmed. Meanwhile, the queen had polished chest and brought forth from an inner room and laid the priceless gifts inside. The clothes and the gold and the Phaeacian lord had brought, and added her own gifts, a cloak and a fine shirt, and gave her guests instructions quick and clear. Now look to the lid yourself, and bind it fast, with a good tight knot, so no one can rob you on your voyage, drifting onto a sweet sleep as the black sleep sails you home. Hearing that, the storm-tossed man secured the lid straight away. He battered it fast with a swift, intricate knot, and the lady Circe had taught him that long ago. And the housekeeper invited him at once to climb into a waiting tub and bathe. A hot, steaming bath. What a welcome sight to Odysseus' eyes. He'd been a stranger to comforts such as these since he'd left the lovely-haired Calypso's home. Yet all those years he'd enjoyed such comforts there, never ending, as he were a god. And now, when maids had washed him, rubbed him down with oil, and drawn warm fleece and shirt around his shoulders, he stepped from the bath to join the nobles at their wine. And there stood Nausicaa as he passed, Beside a column that propped a sturdy roof, she paused, endowed by the gods with all her beauty, gazing at Odysseus right before her eyes. Wonderstruck, she hailed her guests with a winning flight of words. Farewell, my friend, and when you are at home, in your own homeland, remember me at times. Mainly to me you owe the gift of life. Odysseus rose to the moment deftly and gently. Nausicaa, daughter of generous King Alcinous, may Zeus, the thunderer, Hera's husband, grant it so, that I travel home and see the dawn of my return. Even at home I pray you as the deathless gods all my days to come. You saved my life, dear girl. And he went and took a seat beside the king. By now they were serving out the portions of mixing wine, and the herald soon approached, leading the faithful bard Demodocus, prized by all the people, seated him in a chair amidst the feasters, leaning it against the central column. At once alert, Odysseus carved a strip of loin, rich and crisp with fat, from the white-tusked boar, that still had much meat left, and called the herald over. Here, herald, take this choice cut to Demodocus, so he can eat his fill with warm regards. From a man who knows what suffering is. From all that walk the earth, our bards deserve esteem and awe, for the muse herself has taught them pats of song, the love of breed of harpers. The heralds placed the gift in Demodocus' hand, and the famous blind bard received it, overjoyed. They reached for the good things that lay outspread, and when they put aside desire for food and drink, Odysseus, master of many exploits, praised the singer. I respect you, Demodocus, more than any man alive. Surely the Muses taught you. Zeus's daughter or god of Apollo himself. How true to life, all too true, you sing the Achaeans' fate. All they did and all they suffered, all they soldiered through, as if you were there yourself, or heard from one who was. But come now, shift your ground. Sing of the wooden horse Epeus built with Athena's help, the cunning trap that good Odysseus brought one day to the heights of Troy, filled with fighting men who laid the city waste. Sing that for me, true to life as it deserves, and I will tell the world at once how freely the muse gave you gods own gift of song. Stirred now by the muse, the bard launched out in a fine blaze of song, starting at just the point where the main Achaean force, setting their camps afire, but boarded the oar-swift ships and sailed for home. But famed Odysseus' men already crouched in hiding in the heart of Troy's assembly, dark in that horse. The Trojans dragged themselves to the city heights. Now it stood there, looming. And round its bulk the Trojans sat debating, clashing days on end. 3 plans split their ranks, either to hack open the hollow vault with ruthless bronze, or haul it up to the highest ridge and pitch it down the cliffs, or let it stand, a glorious offering made to pacify the gods. And that final plan was bound to win the day. For Troy was fated to perish once the city lodged inside her walls the monstrous wooden horse, where the prime of Argive power lay in wait, with death and slaughter bearing down on Troy. And he sang how troops of Achaeans broke from cover, streaming out of the horse's hollow flanks to plunder Troy. He sang how left and right they ravaged the steep city, sang how Odysseus marched right up into Deiphobus' house like the god of war on attack with diehard Menelaus. There he sang, Odysseus fought the grimmest fight he had ever braved, but he won through at last, thanks to Athena's superhuman power. That was the song the famous harper sang, but the great Odysseus melted into tears, running down from his eyes to wet cheeks. As a woman weeps, her arms flung around her darling husband, a man who fell in battle, fighting for town and townsmen, trying to beat the day and doom of home and children. Seeing the man go down, dying and gasping for breath, she clings for dear life and screams and shrills, but the victors just behind her, digging spear butts into her back and shoulders, drag her off in bondage, yoked to hard labor and pain, and the most heartbreaking torment wastes her cheeks. So, from Odysseus' eyes ran tears of heartbreak now, but his weeping went unmarked by the others. Only Alcinous, seated close beside him, noticed his guest's tears, heard the groan in the man's labored breathing, and said at once to the master mariners around him, Hear me, my lords, and captains of Phaeacia. Let Demodocus rest his ringing lyre now. The song he sings can hardly please us all. Ever since our meal began and stirring bard launched his song, our guest has never paused in his tears and throbbing sorrow. Clearly grief has overpowered his heart. Break off this song. Let us all enjoy ourselves and the host and guest together, much the warmer way. All these things are performed for him, our honored guest, the royal send-off here, and gifts we give in love. Treat your guest and suppliant like a brother. Anyone with a touch of sense knows that. So don't be crafty now, my friend. Don't hide. The truth I'm after. Fair is fair. Please speak out. Come, tell us a name they call you there at home. Your mother, father, townsmen, neighbors around about. Surely no man in the world is nameless, all told. Born high, born low. As soon as he sees the light, his parents always name him once he's born. And tell me of your land, your people, your city too, so our ships can sail you home. Their wits will speed them there, for we have no steersman here among Phaedra's crew, or steering oars that guide your common craft. Our ship knows in a flash their mates' intentions, know all ports to call, and all the rich green fields. With wings of the wind they cross the seagull's gulfs, shrouded in mist and cloud, no fear in the world of foundering, fatal shipwreck. True, there's an old tale I heard my father telling once. Nausitus used to say that Lord Poseidon was vexed with us because we escorted all mankind and never came to grief. He said that one day a well-built ship of ours sailed home from the misty sea from such a convoy and a god would crush it. Yes, a pile of human mountain round from our port. So the old king foretold. And as for the god, well, he can do his worst or leave it quite undone, whatever warms his heart. But, come my friend, tell us your own story now. Tell it truly. Where have your rovings forced you? What lands of men have you seen? What sturdy towns? What men themselves? Who were wild, savage, lawless? Who were the friendly to strangers, God-fearing men? Tell me. Why do you weep and grieve so sorely when you hear the fate of the Argives, hear the fall of Troy? That is God's work, spinning threads of death through the lives of mortal men, and all to make a song for those to come. Did one of your kinsmen die before the walls of Troy? Some brave man, a son by marriage, father by marriage? Next to our own blood kin, our nearest, dearest ties? Of a friend, perhaps? Someone close to your heart, staunch and loyal? No less dear than the brother in arms, who share our innermost